Hi guys, it's Matt Harnacke and welcome back to another vlog on behalf of Bit. In this segment of the vlog, we're going to be talking about my actual trip with Chase, being on the plane and all the details within that. I've already have 2 vlogs out, so if you guys haven't seen those, please go check those out first. I talk about my myself, my modeling, my career, and my decision to move and why I did and the process of that. But today we're going to be discussing actually the flying and everything that went into that. So the first step was on the day I was going to get picked up at 7 a.m. And I had a transport company coming to pick me up, so a lot of my friends and my family came to Chase's stable. We said our goodbyes, we loaded Chase on the truck, and that went all fine. We ran into a little bit of traffic on the way to the airport, so instead of taking 45 minutes, it actually took us about almost 2 hours to get to the airport. But luckily with Equine International Air Freight's kind of management, we had plenty of time allocated in there, so if something like that happened, it wasn't going to be a problem. So we arrived at the airport, Chase unloaded on the truck, and he was seen by a vet straight away to make sure, once again, getting off the truck, he was good and healthy and ready to go on the plane. After that, he was put in a holding stable right kind of like beside the runway basically, and then I met the person I was flying with, which is Chris Chug. We decided to first pack in all the stuff that was needed for the horses and my gear, which, as I already told you guys before, was a lot. So we packed all the gear and luckily it fit, which was a surprise. And then with the help of Peter, the main groom on the flight, he loaded the horses. They went inside the crate fine, which was great to see. And then separate to the horses, myself, Chris, and Peter, we all walked to the plane where we boarded from a flight of stairs. Now, there wasn't normal security for me like there is on a normal plane. So I had a police check before my stuff was looked at quickly, but I didn't have to go through a normal security process where everyone went through. I had a separate setup going on, which you guys will be able to see in the video series as well. So we arrived on the plane, we went on board, we loaded up the horses and everything was fine, so they were lifted up onto the plane and then they kind of went inside, and they were very close to the entrance of the cargo plane. So the cargo plane is set up so there's the pilots in front, there's a quick seating area of 5 seats, all in one row. There's 2 beds on the side which are closed into like a little room, and then everything behind that is the cargo plane, and that's where you have obviously the cargo, which could be horses, it could be packages, it could be anything, cars, anything at all really. So we actually had a kind of an empty flight on the way to Hong Kong, which was the first flight. So the first flight was Sydney to Hong Kong, and it was pretty empty. So we had a few boxes and things with the horses, but there wasn't that much. So we packed the horses in, we met the pilots, we kind of discussed what the routine was going to be. We weren't allowed to be with the horses whilst there was takeoff, taxi or landing. So we had to go to our seats. Takeoff was very smooth, but very similar to how you would take off with a normal plane. And then as soon as we kind of had the feet off the ground, we rushed back to see how the horses were doing, and it was so surreal to see the plane still climbing, and I was there with my horse, and he was actually fine. They were all fine. I think for them it's more like it must have felt like they were going up a hill. It wouldn't have been too different to what they were used to, apart from the noise, of course. The rest of the flight went very, very well. Chase and the other horse were getting along great. Chase wasn't eating or drinking at this point, but it was still early, kind of like the first few hours of the flight, so it wasn't concerning us at all. I am very lucky. I sleep a lot on planes. I kind of like just shut my eyes and I get to my destination pretty quick. But I made sure to get up every 2 or 3 hours to check on Chase, and the groom Peter also was checking every hour, every 2 hours. But we didn't want to go and bother them too often. It's good to give them time on the plane to just be by themselves, and if they want to sleep, they can sleep and they can also relax. That having gone smoothly, we arrived in Hong Kong after about 10 hours, which was kind of a long flight for them, especially for the first flight. And it all went pretty smooth, stayed all the way inside the plane, and the stuff was removed that needed to get off the flight, and the new cargo was put in. And from Hong Kong to Dubai, which was going to be the next destination, we had a full flight, so the horses were fully packed in. They moved the horses right up closest to our seating area as possible, so we had good access to them. And then also in that way, when we landed in Dubai, the horses were able to stay on the flight as long as possible with the air conditioning before they had to get off. So once again, we take off, we go and check on the horses, everything is fine. The second flight was also pretty long, maybe 6, 7, 8 hours. And it ran very smoothly. We didn't have any turbulence. I slept, and Chase was checked on by myself and Peter. Everything went fine, but Chase started to get very irritated with the horse next to him, Chris's horse. So we set up a divider, and that was enough to kind of just make sure they just kind of kept to themselves a little bit, because Chase was getting a bit, I think, annoyed being in there for so long that he was just taking his frustration out on the other horse. Now we arrived in Dubai, landing, everything was fine, the horses were good, but they hadn't drank yet, so this was starting to become a bit of a concern, especially because they can get a bit sick if they don't drink, and also of course there's problems with getting their head down, which also causes travel sickness, but they weren't showing any signs of that. But Peter the groom often went and tried to give them, you know, a drink or see if they would take some food, and they had constantly 24/7 hay. Which the other horse really enjoyed, but of course my horse, being my horse, didn't decide to eat or drink anything. We had to unload in Dubai, and we had to wait for the other flight to be ready for us to get on it. But that meant we had to have the horses on the runway, obviously at where the planes were parked. But Peter the groom made sure that the horses were put at the front of the plane because we didn't want to be close to the turbines, purely because of the sound and the heat as well. We landed at a strategic time in the middle of the night, so it was, I think, 1 or 2 a.m., but it was still 35 degrees and very humid, so the horses were very hot whilst we were waiting, but it worked to our advantage because Chase was thirsty then and he finally drank. So obviously horses unloaded, everything went fine. We waited maybe 30 minutes on the runway, and then the horses were put back into the next plane with air conditioning, so they only really had a half an hour out there to chill. And then we load up the next plane, and that was going to be the last leg of our journey. That was going to be flying from Dubai to Luxembourg, which was 6 hours, so it was the shortest plane ride. On a 747, it all went very, very comfortably. The horses took off. We went back and checked on them again. They were checked every 2-3 hours. The horses were drinking and eating. Chase started to eat as well, which went great. Then checked on the horses for one last time, and that all went great. And then we went and took our seats. We landed into Luxembourg very easily, very comfortably, and we unloaded, and that was the first moment that I really thought, wow, my horse is in Europe. Because I mean, prior to that, Hong Kong, Dubai, it's not all quite the same, but it was so strange to see my horse, hearing the European birds chirping in the background. I found that so surreal, but that was the first kind of hint to me that, wow, I landed in Europe. So thank you guys so much for watching this third vlog, talking more about the traveling and the flying process. Stay updated for the next vlogs coming up, talking about the rest of my journey. Thank you guys for watching so far, and I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Bye bye.